Stadium Journey podcast. Thanks for listening, and happy Willie O'Ree night. For those of you watching at a later date, right now the Bruins, as we speak, are retiring Willie O'Ree's number 22 in honor of the first, I can't say African-American, African-Canadian man to play in the NHL, but that's a topic for another time. So StadiumJourney.com is our website. We are the world leader in sports travel information with reviews of over 2,500 stadiums around the world and counting. I added a couple more this week. That's why I'm counting. We are more than just an awesome website, though. You can connect with us on all of our social media channels at Stadium Journey. Find our audio versions of the Stadium Journey podcast simply by picking up your phone and searching HIAC Talk Radio Network wherever you find your favorite podcasts. Video simulcasts can be still found on our YouTube page and our classic back catalog. We've been doing this for 5 years, folks. We got lots of old episodes out there. You can find those at vocnation.com. And we record live for those of you who would like to listen and be part of our studio audience, like our friend Gregory Koch. We record live every other Tuesday night at 7 Eastern at danlaw.tv. And the gang is all here tonight. Dave Cotney's here. Follow him at ProFan9. Mark Viquez is here. He is at Ballpark Hunter. The other guy, Dan Calachico's here. Follow him at danlaw83. And I'm Paul Baker. You can follow me online at PuckmanRI. And we are very happy to be joined tonight by our buddy Sam Fryman. Sam is one of ESPN Plus's play-by-play announcers for the Premier Hockey Federation. And perhaps more importantly for Dan, he's a Philadelphia native. Sam, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me. Glad to be on the panel of a lot of Philadelphia natives, it seems, or at least close enough in Jersey.
And then there's Dave.
Yeah, there's Dave.
I'm nowhere near Philly either, so I can't.
I don't claim Philly. Willie O'Ree land.
Representing for the night.
So,
good.
Sam.
I'll have that hat when you're done with it then, Mike.
Okay. It might be too small for your big head.
These are usually the insults you'll hear.
All right.
When you're in our studio audience.
I do like your shirt, though.
The show tonight. So, Sam, you are one of the crew who does the announcing for the Premier Hockey Federation on ESPN.
That is
Plus,
correct.
Right?
Yes, I got my next game going on this weekend. I won't be on ESPN Plus this weekend. It'll be Twitch for the Canadian and international audience, but it'll be my first game broadcasting for the team I love so much that I've been with the past 4 years, the Boston Pride. Finally get to do one of their games because my debut was Connecticut versus Buffalo, which was a highly entertaining weekend, but it'll be nice to get back to the team I know and love.
So I guess more importantly, we are recording this on January the 18th. Some big news came out of the PHF this morning, right?
Massive news in terms of investment. They got together with Commissioner Ty Tumini and the Board of Governors today. They've agreed to invest over $25 million in direct payment and benefits to the players over the next 3 years, which is millions of dollars and salary and benefits going into next season. Players are going to have a lot more control in terms of how they get paid, what kind of benefits they have, more control over images and likeness, and also two big keys that were announced: an expanded regular season up to 28 games from 20, and two new teams that are going to be joining the Premier Hockey Federation next season. One of them already confirmed, Montreal, Quebec, Canada, and the other to be determined, but it's more than likely going to be a U.S. market, and there have been a lot of cities throughout the Midwest, throughout the East Coast. I know Philadelphia has been in some talks, so we will see what happens.
Please. Are you saying it's Indianapolis?
Please, Philly.
I would love to see a Midwestern team. Personally.
Why not? I mean, Chicago, Minneapolis, Milwaukee. No. I mean,
listen, guys, I'm about me, and I would like a distraction from the Flyers. So please,
as always.
Oh,
please,
as would I.
Please, a Philly team, please.
Philly supports their team, so that wouldn't be a bad choice.
Yes,
I'll give you guys that.
Philly has all the factors there. I think they have business owners or entrepreneurs who would certainly put up the cash to fund a team. I think they have arenas around the area, whether it's the Flyers practice facility, 1923 rink in West Philadelphia, where the team could play, and definitely a city of sports fanatics that would support them.
Go ahead, Jan. I know you want to say it. The Cherry Hill Arena, right?
No, that doesn't exist anymore. It's been gone since '84. No. I never even thought of 23 1923 arena, and I went like that because I just got excited because I'm like, oh my god, that would look so cool. That would look so cool. Sam, I just want to say, I've heard you call a few games, and I've always wondered, is he from the same area I am because of the accent? And
yes, I don't think it comes out during my broadcasting though, so I guess it must a little bit.
A little.
When I yell, the Philly comes out a little more.
When you have moved to where I moved to, and you hear it more, because I've lost a little bit of it. When I go home and I come back, it's all, yes. Hey, you, I want some water. And the first time I said water, ice.
The vowels all get butchered again.
Yeah, they're all butchered. The syllables are gone. But there's a couple times I'm like, no, he couldn't be. And it's hilarious that you are. So I'm delighted that it's you and that you're on the show. I just wanted to throw that out.
Thank you.
Dave, jump in while you can.
Okay.
Now.
It's a good thing you guys aren't from Maine, man. You'd be like ready to go and take each other to see a dead body somewhere. Okay, so I might be Stand By Me. Come on.
Great movie.
I got it. Across the train
Paul
tracks.
is looking a little confused.
No, I got it.
I was.
So,
hey, I'm from Maine. I never once went and talked to my friends to see a dead body.
That'd be a good weekend trip, though, when you're at that certain age. Okay, go ahead.
Dead moves, yes. Dead body.
Coming back to the topic at hand, maybe I'm a little bit behind, but sort of two-part question. Is the big rift between like the two leagues, one current league, one former league, is that still there?
Well, the answer to that question is
would this influx of money sort of, kill that other group or whatever? What do you think?
Well, here's sort of the two-part answer to that question about the rift. First of all, just that word, rift. I really think it's like, for those of us who are sort of in the industry and seeing what the players are striving for, on both sides of the equation, it really isn't this massive rift that people are making out to be. These players are fighting for the exact same thing. They're just going about it in different ways. And because that's out there, and when you just look on a sheet of paper and say, okay, this is clearly national team members and players who are currently in the Premier Hockey Federation, it's easy to put two and two together and create that as this is the narrative. These players want to do it this way, and they think their way is the only way to go about doing it. But with this announcement today, I do think it's very much sort of a checkmate move, in a sense, from the Premier Hockey Federation. You know now that the money is being put up. The TV deal with ESPN Plus is in there for multiple years now. And if you're talking about a confirmed expanded regular season and two additional teams, and by the way, you're doing this literal weeks before the Olympic Games are set to start, where the United States and women's hockey will be defending their gold medal, then it really also begs the question of, hey, PWHPA, after those Olympics, what are you going to do? Because you have a lot of players on that roster who are getting up there with age now. They want to start families. They're maybe starting to think about retirement. And if they go into another possibly full year, or at least full hockey season, of only doing these sponsored barnstorming events, maybe a one-off appearance at an all-star game, just kind of playing with each other, how long can you keep doing that? When it's not an actual league, you're still not getting paid as you want, and the NHL and other big money donors continue to both publicly and privately say, look, we're not interested in competing. We're not interested in putting another league out of business. So if you're at pretty much year 3 of that, how long before the players either kind of retire and go about their retired lives, or just say, screw this, we're not getting it done the way we want. Maybe let's try to either go over or work with these players who are here in a professional league to get what everybody wants and desires as the end product. Because the PHF continues to make strides towards it, while the PWHPA, I feel like, is crawling at a little bit more of a slower pace. They just have the brand recognition and the name recognition, so it's not something that I think has fully been killed. They just keep trucking along because they believe they can still get that investment.
Well, I think the only model, there's two models sorry, what was PW?
PWHPA, Professional Women's Hockey Players Association.
I think there's only really two models that we've seen success with that, and not the Premier Lacrosse League, because I don't think there's enough staying power to say that they're working yet. One is curling up here, where kind of the professionals have sort of done this little barnstorming thing, and the curling season is really, in Canada anyway, it's like the Nationals, right? The Scott Tournament of Hearts for the women, the Brier for the men, and the Olympics or Nationals.
So that's sort of their regular season, quote unquote, is all these big tournaments.
That's it. So then the ones who want to make more on it, they kind of do these little, team so and so is going to go against team so and so, as opposed to the Brier or whatever, where they represent a province. And the other one has been wildly successful, but it's a whole different thing, and that's of course the Harlem Globetrotters, right? They work, but they're not a sporting event, right? They're a show.
And outside of the show, they do a ton in terms of like community promotion, events, public service, all of that, pretty much every other day of the year when they're not putting on the actual arena shows. They'll be in whatever community they're in and spend maybe 2 or 3 days just doing any and all community events they can get their hands on to promote the big show.
But I think it's interesting that you bring up the age factor, because, we used to have, old timers hockey. I don't know, for those of us who are old enough to remember old timers hockey, and they had a Sunday afternoon after the football season, you could watch old timers hockey, but it died a painful death, right? Like it's like watching it was like watching slow motion hockey in real time. So,
well, you even have up in Canada also the story of the WHA and how they eventually got absorbed into the NHL.
Yeah, but and again, that was a totally different time, the WHA, right? Like,
you had a lot of leagues trying to merge with the big boys, WFL and ABA.
And it's interesting that in football specifically, it seems like there's still groups that are, if the
and
XFL
they keep failing all these spring football leagues, and they just keep putting them up, and that's
I'm shocked.
A lot
if
of
we hang on long enough, we can merge with the big guys. But
that's why a lot of people in the women's hockey world and women's sports worlds are like, why can we not do this for women's sports when you see putting up the money continually for men's sports and showing that they fail? Why do you keep trying again with them and not trying, period, with us to put up that money and really invest?
So, does this announcement happen without the ESPN deal?
I think it happens possibly at a different time. I still think it happens on the same scale. But the TV deal is very much the factor behind the team expansion, I think, and the increased regular schedule. You have it on a streaming service that can be seen regularly. Every weekend there's competition for people in the U.S., people even outside the U.S. So you're growing the game on all fronts you want to grow. You get that U.S. audience, you get the Canadian audience, you get international people interested if they want to come over, you get international players interested if they want to come over. So I think without the TV deal, this still gets announced and this kind of investment still does need to happen, but it may have been brought about at either a different time or in a different way.
So does this league work in more of a centrally run fashion as opposed to
correct
the other leagues that we're used to?
Yes, because the board of governors, who they are right now, are essentially the 6 league owners. And it's one family who actually owns, I believe, 3 of the 6 now. And so it's basically them, the commissioner, and maybe 2 outside business partners that basically make up the board of governors. And through their ownership, through their businesses, whatever they may have, they're able to kind of collectively put up this money and put forward the big investment for the league. And that's also a big factor, I think, of what brought about expansion and the greater willingness to invest, is that all the teams are now independently owned, which was something we didn't see with the PHF until this changeover in name and branding and all that.
So do you think the change from the I believe it was the
NWHL, yes,
to the PHF, do you think that has been a positive change, or is it you think it's just different letters? It's not that big a deal.
I think in some ways how they went around branding it is a little strange, because they wanted to put that out there as sort of non-gendering the league, of sort of, these aren't just the best women's players or a league for women to play. This is some of the most elite hockey you can watch, whether we've got female players, non-binary players, transgender, all those sorts of things. But yet they still use in a lot of their press releases the language of the greatest women's hockey you can see, which just makes it feel, in some releases, a little hollow. But I think it was the right step to take in terms of rebranding, making it sound more legitimate as an organization that wasn't just going to fold or die over or continue to have their financial or player problems across the league. They really wanted to set themselves up for the future and for a distinct path to last for years to come, to get better brand recognition.
I think it was a way to make them also appear not to be like the little sister of the NHL.
Right.
They wanted to get rid of that. So,
Interesting.
new expansion team coming. Dan, you and I have been talking for years about where our team should go.
Yes.
What do we think? If we had some Vegas money to
Philadelphia.
Where would the new team go?
Oh no, I want to put it in Philadelphia.
Not saying what you want. Where do we?
Oh no,
where would it go?
I don't care about the rest. No,
Connecticut.
Realistic. First of all, we have to say that one team's going to Montreal. I believe they said.
Yes.
I do hope. Of course, I hope it would be the Philadelphia team. As I said, I need a distraction. But realistically, I really think it'll be somewhere a little higher up in the Northeast, closer to the other teams, or another team closer to Minnesota, I think.
That's where I would put my money on the Midwest, because you have a lot of those markets where you can attract a lot of college talent. And I think part of that Midwest equation also, whether it's Detroit, Chicago, maybe Wisconsin, maybe even Columbus, is sort of break up that little monopoly that Minnesota has over just getting every single player from the elite college programs in Minnesota, some from Wisconsin, some from Michigan, and just kind of break that up. Because there are a lot of great college hockey programs throughout the Midwest and outside the state of Minnesota. And in a way, Paul, you certainly know this as well as I do, Boston sort of has that monopoly in the Northeast as well, because they're right there in a major city that everyone wants to be in and work in, because these players still have to have a 9-to-5 career. And also it's a city where you, again, can attract some major college talent from some of the best programs, not only in that city, but in the country.
Yeah, that's one thing that's different about the PHF, is because the players aren't paid enough to make hockey their full-time career, they're all working day jobs. So,
and I'm sorry, that's something I didn't even mention of the announcement, the team cap, which will be raised from $300,000 per team to now $750,000. So with
maybe
that, we would be inching very, very close to the players finally having hockey as their only full-time 9-to-5 job. And this was something I also got from talking with some other people. Could we perhaps finally see multi-year contracts in the PHF and legitimate contract negotiations?
Yeah, because one thing that happens now, for those of you who aren't familiar, is because the players all have their day jobs. So basically the Boston team, for example, is made up of players who all live around Boston. And
or who all
Buffalo
played their college hockey pretty much in or around Boston or New England.
Minnesota, same for all the teams, So this is a big step to making, copying the other professional models.
That's one thing that I always felt was missing when people tried to compare this with the WNBA and how come the WNBA has been such a success. And I view it as the WNBA has a
They've got the big
formula. They have a formula that hockey can't match. They play in the off season, right? So they're not competing for the most part against the guys, right? For screen time or whatever. And they're playing in the off season from the European leagues. So they can all go play in Europe and make, well, some of the WNBA players make like twice as much as they
That's
in
where
Europe.
they make their big money. Yes, absolutely.
And then they can come home or whatever and play in the off season. So they're working full time at basketball in sort of almost two part-time job scenarios. But in hockey, you can't do that. I can't see them selling summer hockey to anyone, let alone, to make
if
it.
You can't even sell spring football, you're certainly not going to sell summer hockey.
And I think that's one factor that has really made the WNBA work. Is you're not competing.
Well, the second factor would be that the major league also has a hand in it.
Bankrolled them
and
for
also
many, many years.
A lot of the teams are equally in the markets with the NBA teams. Granted, you have some PHF teams who are in NHL markets, but they don't exactly get the support from the NHL teams, apart from maybe the occasional shout out or maybe the one night a year little tie-in where Pride players will go to a Bruins game or one Bruin will show up for a puck drop, something like that. And
but as an
let them
owner
use
of
their practice rinks.
As an owner of a major team, I mean, essentially, you don't want to compete with anyone, right? Like, you don't want to compete with them. The scale is totally different. But, as the owner of the Boston Bruins, do you want people going to the Boston Pride game, or would you rather have them watching the Boston Bruins on television? Well, of course you'd rather have them watching on television, right?
You can try to promote them as much as you can on nights when they're maybe not competing, but yes, I absolutely get what you're saying.
I think it would. I think it's stupid that the NHL doesn't do more. It would grow the game on both sides if the NHL showed a little more love to the Premier Hockey Federation. It would get a lot of people in the Premier Hockey Federation fans, including me, who are angry that the NHL is like, goody. We can have you play in the afternoon on the outdoor game.
Yeah. And that I think is also part of the whole divide, if you want to keep using that word equation, is that that look would also get them like a lot of angry responses from the national team players and the PWHPA, and they can't lose that kind of support, whether it's from USA Hockey, Hockey Canada, or whatever, regardless of which side they may want to say things to or acknowledge. It's not going to work for them because the other side is going to go about doing whatever. And credit to the PHF for, with whatever the NHL has said, whatever the PWHPA has said, they kind of take an attitude of, hey, you know what? You'll do you. We'll just keep doing our thing on our own because guess what? We've continued to grow and survive doing things on our own.
But also, I do feel, to touch upon a little bit of what Dave said, these are owners of billions of dollars. And factually, as sad as it makes me, when we say competition, there's not that many people going to PHF games right now versus the NFL, the NHL. A little cross promotion certainly wouldn't hurt their team, especially when you have PHF games mostly in the afternoon, and the NHL
try
could
a double header.
The NHL could. I've always had a problem, especially with the advent of ESPN Plus, with the fact that the NHL can't figure out how to stagger their start times, because I try to get as much hockey fans will try to get as much
before ESPN Plus.
Oh yeah, way before. But like even with the NBC deal, but even now, because Sam, we're from the same area. I moved to Virginia, and I still get Flyers games blacked out.
Yeah,
and it's like with ESPN Plus, I know like tonight the Flyers game. They're tied, by the way. The Flyers game is only on ESPN Plus, but this is like one of those wins that I'm going to take, because usually I can't watch the games, and now ESPN Plus is like local can't see it. I'm like, but I can watch it. But it would. I don't see a major loss in revenue, Dave. Forgive me. If the NHL just, I'm not going to tell them what to do with their money. I'm not going to be like
part of the myth also, because a lot of people, when they kind of show the responses to women's sports or women's hockey, they say, look at the WNBA. They get the NBA investment and they still lose money. The NHL, it would do the same thing. It's like, no, because you've never even tried it.
No, exactly.
So how would you even know?
But like what Sam was saying, a little bit of acknowledgement or a little bit of a double feature. And I'm not even saying they have to play in the arena.
We tried.
I went to one in Buffalo one time.
Yeah, they had one in Buffalo, and 2 seasons ago with Boston and Connecticut in the PHF, we had a doubleheader in Bridgeport. And credit to our team, I was actually with Bridgeport, working with them in their communications department at the time, and obviously with my ties to the Boston Pride, I pushed the hell out of them to be like, promote this, really hit this. You will get a crowd. And guess what? PHF game, which started hours before what was a great AHL matchup, Bridgeport and the Hershey Bears, you had nearly the whole lower bowl filled.
And they all left
for a game in the middle of the afternoon.
Right?
Yeah.
Dave, pretty much because Boston beat on Connecticut pretty bad, but
yeah, the game I went to in Buffalo was the same way. They had reserved in the afternoon before a Sabres-Bruins game. The Whitecaps were in town to play Buffalo. They had like 3 or 4 sections on one side reserved for the Buttes game. They ended up filling half of the lower bowl in Buffalo. With it just overflowed. It was incredible.
P.S. Dave Badash in the chat said, "Don't forgive me." So
okay. I will say this. I mean, and I'm just kind of playing the other side for argument's sake here. So we're looking at organizations who have now found a way to make charity profitable, right? So you have the 50-50.
yes.
What does the team get out of the 50-50? Well, they get that exposure. They get to decide where all that money goes, right? It's the days of the 50-50 where it's like, whoever Fredericton Minor Hockey is getting the money. Like, those days are gone. They're going.
Oh yeah, now it's like the Boston Bruins Foundation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So any kind of money losing, prospect in business, like, what are you getting out of it? So for the Boston Bruins, let's say, just for argument's sake, my question is, what do they get out of promoting the Boston Pride that a businessman can look at? Not fluffy, well, we're going to grow the game and I totally understand what you're saying. And would the Boston Pride benefit from promotion from the Boston Bruins? Absolutely. The question becomes, what do the Boston Bruins get out of it?
I think what they could get out of it is revenue, perhaps, from partners who have latched on to maybe only the Pride and haven't thought about any other hockey or professional sports sponsorships beyond them. And you could attract them then to possibly being with the Bruins, possibly stepping up their game, getting better return on their dollar. And then that's also money for the Boston Bruins. So you get cross promotion in terms of partnerships. You get to expose them a little more on say your TV networks. Like a lot of these teams have NESN specific or NBC Sports Philadelphia, those little local market areas. And then from a business standpoint, again, with the Bruins, you get in those viewing dollars. And so I think it's just those little steps. It's definitely not going to happen overnight right away as a massive revenue stream if an NHL team were to get involved. And then also, I don't think you know how overbearing perhaps an NHL team would want to be in terms of how much can we do for you, because we feel like if we want to get a really good return in our dollar, we're going to have to really get our hands dirty in here and do a lot that maybe you may not be comfortable with.
Mm-hmm. I think when I go to this example a fair bit, and it's a little bit different, and I don't know what is happening in Toronto with the Toronto Six, but
in terms of their revenue generation, or
how their connection with anything. I honestly, I don't know much about them at all, but I do know that when the Maple Leafs put the Toronto Marlies as their affiliate, when they basically brought AHL hockey to Toronto, a market that really was only a Maple Leafs market and not a hockey market. Okay, they used that as their community involvement arm. So they would, you have minor league hockey night. Well, you're not doing it at the Scotiabank Arena, where now you're giving away tickets that are $100+ each. You can send them down to the Coca-Cola Coliseum, and they can have a grand old time where you're only giving away tickets that have a value of $25 or $30.
Yeah, you speak of cross arena. I think that's a great thing. Another team in the PHF could do, the Metropolitan Riveters. They play at their attached Barnabas Center right there, literally in the same building as the Prudential Center. If they want to try to kind of submit that appeal, if they want to the New Jersey Devils and have that exact sort of thing happen. You don't want to put in these ticket prices or whatever. Guess what? You can go see literally right in the same building for affordable, great hockey.
But they're not there anymore, are they?
No, they didn't begin this season at Barnabas. They're now playing there.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes. Back to their old home. And they still don't have their banner from the New Jersey Devils, it seems. They're still keeping that hidden away somewhere.
All right. So as much as I'm so glad that we finally hit on the PHF. Like I said, we've been doing this show for 5 years. Haven't really touched on it except for my travels around the league. Dave, your hat triggered a memory in me of something that you wanted to talk about pertaining to our guest today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before we segue into Philadelphia venues.
Thank you. So when I did my Sam Fryman research, I stumbled across an article when you were the play-by-play for the women's hockey team at Penn.
Yes.
And this article was fascinating because your analyst, Matt Wallace, was blind.
Mm-hmm.
How does that work? Explain that to us. The story really is fascinating.
It really was a great story. I came to Penn and to the Penn program after I had lost a job in the SPHL. And if you don't know the SPHL, it's still one of those minor leagues where
we know them.
Where
they know them.
teams and organizations can still not
Sam
always
has not listened to the podcast before.
No. But they can sometimes not have the best finances or upper management, and that was simply a year where it was not really a fault of my own, but they
What team was that?
It was Fayetteville. Before they were the Marksmen, back when they were the Fire Ants.
Fire Ants.
Yeah, a buddy of mine was the GM for the Evansville team, and we wrote some reviews of the arenas. We ranked them and got vicious emails and comments on Facebook. I was just shocked. Did you get any
vicious emails for a review of the Crown?
You know what? I remember somebody, I didn't review The Crown, but somebody commented, "Oh, I just looked at this page 2 weeks ago. Now all of a sudden they added new pictures. I bet this guy didn't even go to the venue." And I'm thinking, what? That doesn't make any sense, And then they criticized me for taking a picture of an Evansville Aces game in front and not taking a picture of an actual Thunderbolts game. They assumed that I just went down there, took a picture, and left. I live 3 hours from Evansville. I'm not going to drive down to Evansville, take a picture of an arena, and drive right back. I was just shocked. Usually, you put them up, you get some feedback that it's pros and cons, mostly pros. SPHL, my goodness, they were.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I never got to visit the other SPHL venues because we were at a point financially where I didn't travel. I just did the home games.
See that.
But getting back to the point, the entire staff pretty much was let go. Everybody in the front office, down to marketing, communications, ticketing, they just felt like they needed to get new ownership, completely clean house. So I was one of the people who was let go in that. So I come back to Philadelphia, just kind of really trying to reassess my career, thinking, what do I try to do? How do I get reps? Do I still want to be involved in this industry? I look for college programs, and I figure Penn is the first one to email, and I find contact information for the women's team before the men's team. So I figured they probably don't play, in a competitive league of any sorts. They're definitely not D1, but what the heck? Sent them an email, and their president responded to me about 2 days later, just with this incredibly excited tone, like, "Oh my gosh, we've never had this before. You actually want to broadcast for us? Yes, by all means, come on down."
That's great news to hear.
Get set up at games. And I did the first few games solo, and then I figured, I wanted to have someone else in the booth. I wanted to have someone else to kind of talk a little more about the game so that it's not just me kind of screaming into a laptop and a handheld camera for 2 hours, because that was the only thing I was broadcasting on. I had a MixLR feed basically through my laptop, and then I would have a handheld camera where I would follow the action. I looked like a dad in the stands, basically. And so for the next few games, I knew that Matt was a good friend of mine who I had gotten in touch with, who I had known for my years at Temple going to college. We were both big hockey guys. And I figured, Matt has an amazing hockey mind. So I just said to him, "Hey, I'm doing this now. Do you want to come in and do color?" And he jumped at the opportunity. And, the team was immediately very receptive to him, and they were amazed as well. And even they were saying eventually, from the players to the coaching staff, of like he and I being there and really taking this professional approach to the broadcasting, it made them want to practice harder. It made them want to do better. It made them want to really put forth an effort, because this was just club hockey, basically. You have some girls who can skate around everybody and some who just need to try to stay balanced for the shift that they're out there. It's a big difference in some competition, but with Matt being blind and doing what he does, it caught the attention of some news outlets. We got some articles out there, and then eventually got actually a story in The Athletic back when they were doing video content, which they sadly don't do anymore, and led to some great opportunities for us, meeting some great people and really getting Penn also on a great spotlight. And it's actually what led me to my job in the Premier Hockey Federation, because our coach at Penn was a former BU player. And my second year there, this would have been around the winter of 2018. She says, "I know of a women's professional team in Boston who may be in the market for a broadcaster." And I honestly didn't know much about the PHF or what was the NWHL at the time. I knew women played on the national teams and competed at a high level in college, but I didn't think there was that league out there who existed. So I sent an email to their president being like, "This is who I know. She told me to contact you." And they gave me that opportunity. And I was fortunate enough in my first couple seasons to still be able to go back and do some Penn games while I was working, doing home games in the PHF. But now it's just taken on such a life of its own, and I am where I am today, and I owe so much of it to that Penn team just taking a chance on me and kind of really lighting that fire again, and to one of my best friends for coming on the journey with me and kind of being the right hand man every step of the way too. And hopefully in the near future I can get him on some PHF games as well, or to kind of bring him back up again. I think it would be cool to see.
So would he do his analysis based solely on your play-by-play?
Pretty much, yeah. And we would get together and kind of talk about the players between games, and if it had been a game or a practice he hadn't attended, I would say this is who we're thinking about for the line combinations, or if there was a new player or someone he wasn't as familiar with in the season, I said, this is basically how she plays. She's more of a defensive-minded defender, or they like to put this pair together, or this player is really good at this. So if you're going to talk about her, this is something you should hit on. And I try to obviously be as descriptive as possible, A, because I mostly come from radio style, and B, because he can't see the action. So I think that's almost developed who I am as a commentator, of thinking, hey, it's not just that Matt. In my sense, my whole audience is blind if they can't see what's going on. So I try to be ultra descriptive. I try to talk as much as possible. And Matt, just having not only studied the Penn program with me, but having listened to hockey on the radio and all these sports on the radio for as young as he can remember, he just has this amazing natural understanding in the game and can always relay it regardless of what situation may be happening.
So did he ever give you like an elbow in the ribs or whatever and be like, what the hell are you talking about?
No, he never had one of those moments. Usually it's me who has to give him the elbows back of if he may be going on a bit with his analysis. I see a play going on and I'd be like, I know you can't see, there's a 3-on-2 rush the other way, but I'm going to have to shut you up here just a little bit.
That's awesome. That's just an awesome story.
Yeah,
we'll have to make sure we link that to the page of this podcast.
What's Matt doing now?
So Matt now, he works a regular 9 to 5, like I also do when I'm not working with the Pride or in the women's hockey world. He works with a company ironically called Vision Corps that actually employs a lot of blind individuals. And what he does is sort of kind of looking over and reviewing different government contracts. It's a government job. And I'm not sure what kind of language he looks over, what kind of contracts there are, but he has programs all over his computer where basically everything is read to him. He can access clicks or different menus with a speech function, and that's what he does regularly. He's happy to be working remote for now, and he's definitely looking to still get into more broadcasting. He's been given a lot of opportunities with me, and I've tried to help him every step of the way. He got a great lead job broadcasting the Beep Baseball, which, if you don't know that sport, it's baseball for the blind. Their World Series this past summer in Wichita, Kansas, and he's become very involved with them on the national level, and hopefully he gets to do more Beep Baseball. And he says he wants me to come with him for a couple more Beep Baseball games come the spring and summer once the Philadelphia and New Jersey teams get started. And I certainly would love to have him get some more hockey opportunities as well.
I've heard of Beep Baseball. It sounds really interesting.
Yeah, Beep Baseball, it's very fun to watch because I was listening to him when he was doing the World Series. Obviously, it wasn't too fancy of a camera or broadcast setup. They just had kind of the national feed through Facebook. But the differences between Beep Baseball and regular baseball, obviously all the players are blind with the exception of the pitcher. And the pitcher in Beep Baseball is actually working for your team. So he's trying to get you to hit the ball, and the ball beeps. So you can get a sense of when it's coming towards you, and the fielders can also do so. The other differences are in Beep Baseball, it's 4 strikes, you're out, not 3. You don't get any balls with pitches, but you get to have 1 checked swing. And then when you do get a hit, how it works is once you hit the ball, you do have to hit it a certain distance, so it can't just like be an immediate grounder or foul or whatever. Once you get that hit, you have to run to a base, which is essentially a pylon out in the middle of the outfield that's also beeping. And if the hitter reaches that pylon before a fielder can kind of get the ball and deactivate the beep, that's a run. But if the outfielder gets the ball deactivated first, that's an out. And just like regular baseball, it's 3 outs per inning, except I believe it's 6 inning games instead of 9. And you don't have a designated hitter, but you can have a designated fielder, who is someone who may be really good with speed or fielding, that will not be in your batting lineup, but will play the outfield for you when your team is playing the outfield. So it's a very interesting sport to see guys who are speed guys or power guys, or how they approach their batting stances when they can't see, or how the pitchers will adjust throwing underhand if the player's like swinging too high or swinging too low. So it's a lot of unique strategy, and there's a dynasty currently in beep baseball. I forget the actual team name, but it's from the guys from Indianapolis. This past summer, they won their 6th consecutive beep baseball World Series.
Wow. I live in Indianapolis. I never heard of them, so I have to look that up. Now, do they play? Are they? I mean, they're based out of Indianapolis, but do they house games here in Indy? Or do the teams play?
I would assume they have fields somewhere, because I know the local Philly team, the Philly Fire, they play games on different fields, like around Philly or around New Jersey. And I think they one of the New Jersey teams folded, so the Philly Fire have kind of like absorbed some of their players. And I want to say Indy has, like, remembering from
Indy Thunder.
Yeah, the Indy Thunder. That was a really good team. And I want to say Indy has like 3 different teams that were in the Beep Baseball World Series last year, that the Midwest is apparently this massive market for it.
I see. They actually play all over the city. They had a game at the high school I teach at, so.
Oh, wow.
I know where to find them.
Yeah. You know a dominant team to root for now.
All right. Sounds good. I need a winner. It's been a long time. Okay. Yeah.
So I guess for our last segment, we're gonna switch over and talk about, since we're the Stadium Journey podcast, we're gonna talk about some stuff that's some of the places in Philly to catch some games.
Oh, absolutely. Basically, I will start with this. A lot of people may disagree with me, but I do love the setup that Philly has of having all the stadiums collectively in one area. That doesn't make it feel like too close or invasive in the middle of the city. It still remains easy to get to by major highways and public transportation, and they're all solid stadiums. Baseball, Citizens Bank Park, very like evenly built dimensions, great views from all the way around. Lincoln Financial Field, amazingly, I have still never been to an Eagles game at Lincoln Financial Field, but I have been to a soccer matchup there when it first opened. It was Man U versus Barcelona with 70,000 screaming soccer fans. And as a little kid, I made the grave mistake of, since it was red, wearing a Arsenal jersey to a Manchester United game, and just got wildly ridiculed. Thankfully, I had my dad there to save me before I actually got punched. But I was also at Temple University in their drumline and their marching band, so I got to go to many games at the Link, be actually on the field. So the running joke is, whenever the Eagles bring in new players or rookies, that I've been on Lincoln Financial Field more times than they have. Taken more snaps, if you will.
Now, is it as fun to be in the band as it looks? Because whenever I see a college game, I look at the band and I'm like, those guys look like they're having fun nonstop.
That's what I love about college football compared to the NFL as well. Definitely. Just the atmosphere of the college fan, the band element of it, and just those classic either regional rivalries or regional games. I still contend my very first game I was at Temple and in the marching band is the best college football game I've ever seen in person. It was Temple Villanova, so battle for the Mayor's Cup, as it was called at the time, completely filled at the lower bowl, so probably like 30-something thousand fans. It's a back and forth affair all game long. Villanova gets a field goal to put them ahead by 1 with like a minute 10 left. We drive back down the field. We get a game-winning field goal from, you will recognize this name, Brandon McManus, a 43-yarder to seal the game for the Temple Owls, and that was my very first college football game.
Nice. Yeah, I agree with you. I like the whole Philly setup. Paul doesn't like it.
But what is your view on it for
I don't complain about it.
kind of being where it is in South Philly?
Oh, you're asking me?
Yes.
Yeah, we're asking you.
All right.
What's your problem? I like it. Gets easy to get to.
Yeah, I mean, there are pluses. I don't know. I just think there's no neighbor. I'm a big guy. Like plop something downtown, make all kinds of attractions around it, so you can make a day of it. You can't do that in Philly.
I mean, the only thing really around it is, well, you have two things around it now.
Chicky and Pete's is all right.
Yeah, you have Chicky and Pete's, that's not far. You have Xfinity Live, which is this massive sports bar in between, like,
which
all
is this
three
little thing in between
of the stadiums. And then you have, they turned what was an old Holiday Inn hotel. It's now like a full hotel and sportsbook casino. So you have that element of it too. And if you...
Yeah, Paul.
They have a couple of casinos there now, except, why did I just forget the name of it? Rivers is kind of up the road from the stadium, is a bit farther away.
Now, when they were going to build one of the facilities, weren't they talking seriously about moving it downtown, moving it?
They were talking about.
I can't remember which one.
I believe it was when they were talking about Citizens Bank Park. They were thinking of building it in sort of the Chinatown neighborhood, and that was and that was met with a lot of resistance. And I still don't really think that would have worked logistically, knowing that area of Philadelphia.
Yeah,
you would have had to knock a lot of stuff down. There would have been, perhaps they would have changed it, but there only would have been one subway stop that would have been able to get you there. It's not super accessible from the highways because you would have needed to navigate kind of doing the right, left through about 5 blocks.
Yeah.
Off the highways and off the bridges. And while it would give you sort of that old, like Ebbets Field, Wrigley thing of like, you can pour right out into the bars and the community after the game, it just wouldn't work.
No, they made the right choice. Yeah.
And Temple was actually planning for several years of doing the same thing, of building an on-campus football stadium as opposed to playing their games at the Link. And that was also met with a ton of community resistance, even to the point where the newly elected at the time Philadelphia mayor didn't think it was a good idea, basically taking the stance of, you know, you're a university in North Philly that, to be quite frank, has gentrified and built around the neighborhood enough. You don't need to do it more.
So the average sports fan knows, you know, Eagles, Sixers, Flyers, right? Phillies. Right. So what would, if you could say one thing that a sports fan should go and see in Philly that isn't, you know, maybe as widely known?
I know Mark's answer.
What would it be?
100% a college basketball game at the Palestra. That place is just an absolute mecca of basketball history. And regardless of how Penn or any of the other Ivy League teams are doing, or even any of the Philadelphia Big Five teams, those are some of, I think, the best rivalries in the nation, even though it's very centralized within the city of Philadelphia. And they always do a great job throughout the college basketball season of putting the marquee matchups, not just in other venues like Hagan Arena at St. Joe's or the Liacouras Center at Temple. They kind of all collectively get them at the Palestra because that's where the fans want to go. That's where the history is. That's kind of where Philadelphia basketball really has its heartbeat. And another Sporting event I would highly recommend people seeing right next door at Franklin Field is the Penn Relays. Great event for high school track and field that I was fortunate enough to participate in a couple of years being a high school runner. Always a fun time. I got to see Usain Bolt run there with the Jamaican national team in 2009. And when I tell you the crowd that showed up for Sunday, when it was announced that he was going to be in the 4x100 meter race, I could have sworn to you the entire population of the country in Jamaica was packed into Franklin Field at that day. And I still don't think when he crossed the finish line to win the 4x1 for Jamaica, I still don't think I have heard a louder crowd for any sporting event I've been to. So that would definitely be my two to check out: college basketball at the Palestra and track and field at Franklin Field.
Yeah, I could definitely assess to the Palestra. And I was told that the Catholic high school championship games are worth checking out there too, because they also get a huge crowd.
Mm-hmm. And the Catholic League always has some very good teams.
Yes.
Roman Catholic can usually field a competitive team. I know when I was in high school, Newman Goretti was one of the best programs, not only in the city, but they were going into national prominence along with my high school. And then if you switch to football, one of the major Catholic League schools, St. Joe's Prep in West Philadelphia, is consistently one of the best in the state of Pennsylvania, along with some of the other Catholic schools.
Yeah, but I mean, in the Palestra, when you walk around the hallways, the history, everybody who has been part of basketball history has played there, has made an appearance, coaches, women's players. I mean, it's truly a remarkable place just to walk around. If you happen to be there and there's not a game going on, if you can get inside just to walk around.
Yeah, it's like watching a game from the 1950s with the way the way the bleachers are still structured. You have that classic kind of half oval dome that just sort of lets the light in and almost gives the basketball like an aura even when you're watching it. And you always see competitive games, whether it's Big Five or even Penn basketball. You always just see fun, competitive games of basketball that'll make you kind of really love the game, really love the atmosphere you're in. And it's rare that I think an arena in any sport does that.
I definitely agree. Has anybody else been to the Palestra besides?
I have not.
I've been 2013. I saw the last game of the season, Penn and Princeton.
Yeah, and that's like the big rivalry. Those two, they hate each other.
Oh yeah.
Should it
Penn
be
and Princeton, Penn and St. Joe's, Penn and Temple?
Yeah.
All the other the Big Five Philly schools.
All sorts.
Even
of
though
rivals.
I will say Villanova is not and has not ever been in Philadelphia. Villanova is Villanova, Pennsylvania. They are not a Philly school. They are outside of the city. And as a Temple grad, I will take that to my grave.
So does that mean you think that they should be out of the Big Five and be replaced by Drexel?
No, I don't. I don't believe they should be out of the Big Five, because I will give them credit where it is due. They are a phenomenal basketball program who, under Jay Wright, have gone to heights I don't think even the people who remember the 1986 national championship would think they would achieve. But to keep saying you are a Philly school
85.
and you are a part of the pantheon of Philadelphia championships, that's just not accurate based on straight up geography.
Should it be the Big Six now?
Well, they call it the Big Five still, and if Drexel doesn't want to feel left out, they'll say the City Six.
Okay,
but the Big Five is still what you refer to. We don't
They're
need
woke.
little brother Drexel to actually be in there. They're not a part of that history.
So why is Drexel left out? What did they do?
I don't know. Infringed on Penn's campus being right there with them in West Philadelphia, I guess.
Sam, you sound like a Bostonian when you talk about Villanova not being in the city, because Boston says the same thing about Boston College.
They aren't. They aren't in Boston.
I have no comment. Don't even look at me.
Yeah, and St.
I'm
Joe's.
amazed at your quietness, Dan.
No, I was
there on the border.
I was being quiet on purpose.
I guess you disagree, Dan. Just say it.
No.
Just
No,
say
no.
it. Don't sit there quiet, all
No.
nicey with the
No,
smile.
no. See, I do disagree, but factually, I'm incorrect. So I'm not saying a word. It literally isn't in Philly.
Factually, Villanova University is in Villanova, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
They are not in Philadelphia County.
I don't have an argument in this. It's like Radnor and Lower Mary. It's like it's none of it's in Philadelphia. Let's
East
just say
Rutherford,
that.
it's not New York.
Yeah. Well, East Rutherford. Never mind. But no. I have nothing. Listen, I can't argue it. I can't even debate it because I am absolutely scientifically, mathematically, factually incorrect. So that's why I was silent.
The Central Jersey debate, if we're not careful here.
Yeah, no, we're straddling that line, and that doesn't exist, so I can't say it.
And I don't think we will have that debate.
No. I will say this though, Jay Wright. There is every year the President Steve Show does a Camp Out for Hunger.
Yes,
and every year they have the City 6 Papa Shot Challenge. Notice we said City 6 when we're talking about because Jay Wright from Villanova. It's basically that arcade game at the arcades, guys, where it has the basketball net that moves up and down. Yeah. Well, the part of what President Steve's show organized, and I believe it was Casey's idea, Casey Boy, the producer of the show, came up with the Papa Shot, where the coaches from the Big Six in Philadelphia would compete in a mini tournament, see who got the most, and each shot made was like another pound of food or another 100 pounds of food donated to the Camp Out for Hunger. It would change over the years. And I think at one point, Jay Wright had it 3 times in a row where he got the most. It was 2 or 3. But for Jay Wright's always been cool, and it's been like an ambassador, little brother to Philadelphia with that connection to the President Steve Show. So that was the only. I didn't want to debate with Sam. I just wanted to put the asterisk in there just to give it.
As a Temple grad, I don't always love seeing the Villanova basketball success, but I will absolutely give them credit where it's due. Jay Wright is a phenomenal coach, and they've built a phenomenal program. And their arena, the Pavilion, is also a great place to see some college basketball.
There was a little bit of scintilla of hope when, oh my God, the guy before Doc Rivers. Why am I blanking on his name? Brett Brown. When Brett Brown got fired, there was a little part of me that was like,
no, I never thought he was going to leave.
No. I never thought he was, but I was like, please offer him the job, please. And
I was like, they were going to have to offer him like
a lot.
Treasure chest of like the spy movies, like the multiple suitcases of cash to take that job.
Oh wait, you won't take it? Hold on. Here's another one and another one, please. Yeah. Oh, let's talk for a second, Sam, about the Sixers, if you guys don't mind, because I brought it up a few times that these guys don't know the area enough to discuss how dumb of an idea this would have been, or not dumb, depending on how Sam feels about it. But in the midst of one of the losses of the Sixers years before they went out and made the playoffs, it was the year after the Toronto year. Josh Harris put out this.
Not the Atlanta collapse, right?
No. The year before that. No, we're not talking about the Atlanta collapse. We're staying away from that, Sam. Shut up, Mark.
70s.
You don't get to sing the song. Go ahead. There was Josh Harris came out, and there was not a rumor. He said he wanted to build another arena and leave Wells Fargo Center, because for those who are listening, the Sixers are actually owned by the same ownership group that owns the Devils. Yes, I know. I can't sleep at night either. It bothers me. But anyway.
Strange bedfellows.
Yes, it is. He wants to build an arena, or he wanted to propose an arena at Penn's Landing. Sam, without getting fired
about this, yeah.
Yeah, but barely, because you guys are like, what does that mean? And I'm like,
no, I didn't.
I know Penn's Landing.
I had a 2-word answer to that.
Where?
No, I know where Penn's Landing is. My answer was effing stupid.
Oh, yes. Okay. Well, the other two, I just wanted Sam's input on that whole thing.
I didn't think it was completely stupid, but I was just like, the side of this won't work is like outweighing the side of this could work to me.
Man.
And now I think they have a solid Penn's Landing proposal where it's going to be like this $2 billion investment of like new apartments, new business centers. They're going to have that like overpass park created that will like go from the edge of Society Hill to like over 95 all the way to the waterfront, like this massive green space. So that I think will be cool. And that'll also revitalize, like, they have a lot of these like outdoor bars and like beer gardens that are there now. The area's been like very solid. They have a skating rink there that's ice skating in the colder months and like roller skating in the regular months. They have a hotel down there, a couple other like major luxury apartment condos. They have like old shipping piers that have been turned into apartment units. So it's a really cool area, Penn's Landing. And if you get on like the subway or if you get off the major highway 95, you can pretty easily get there. So I just figured a stadium was like, it's not the worst idea, but it's just like, it doesn't need to be there.
I didn't see
it was a
that.
better proposal than Chinatown, but I still didn't think it would work.
It's a better proposal than Camden as well.
Oh, anything's a better proposal than Camden.
Listen,
I just went past the practice facility because I went to a concert in Camden on Sunday, so I saw where the practice facility was. And like, this is actually the first time in years I've driven past this. And I was like, what a shitty place for a practice facility.
It doesn't. I'm still bitter about that city after they got rid of
Campbell's Field.
Campbell's Field. I'm still bitter about that. What a waste.
I did not like that.
What a absolute. And I know it's technically outside of Philly, but
the Blue Rocks in Wilmington just don't have the same effect.
No, but I know it's not outside of Philly. But have you ever been to a game there?
The old Camden
Campbell's Field. Yeah.
No, I never got to go to a game there.
I'm so sad and disappointed because I know it's technically, South Jersey and Philly. It's the Philly market, so we all,
if you're from Camden, you're rooting for the Philly teams.
Listen, Mark, I'm talking to the guy that's actually from the area now.
I'm agreeing with you.
Can you give me a second?
I've agreed. I think it was a waste. I think if you had better ownership there, a better ownership group.
I wish you had gone. I wish you'd had a chance to go because it was. Yeah. Like it wasn't anything. It wasn't the major leagues or you didn't invest.
A similarly built stadium that I think has that effect, if you guys ever get the chance to go to it, is Philly's soccer stadium, which again, not in Philadelphia, it's down in Chester, but kind of right by the bridge. You can kind of see the river a little bit if you overlook. It's a great stadium built soccer specifically. And I'm glad that the Union are finally a championship caliber team after a couple of years of just kind of staying up and down there in the middle of we think they're good, but then they don't get it done.
Sam, I have another, not a personal question, but a more question pertaining to you now, sir.
Maybe we need to get off.
No, not like that.
Okay.
Jesus Christ, Mark. It's still prime time.
It's a family show.
It's a family show. How did you come by your job at ESPN Plus?
So that was actually interesting because this is full disclosure, this is spilling the tea a little bit here, as the younger kids might say, but myself and a lot of what you might consider like the older broadcasters of the league, the one who had been with teams before the ESPN Plus, before the Twitch deal with the bubble, they weren't necessarily asked to be part of this new broadcast crew. A few were, but I kind of saw my opportunity of, I'm not going to be able to broadcast these this year. And I was kind of talking to some of the other broadcasters of kind of, why didn't I get a contact call? Is it just because I didn't know the right people? Is it because they're doing this? And then I found out it was because they were doing all the games remote still from a studio in Florida. So they kind of went with their familiar crew of broadcasters who did like soccer or a couple other sports for them. And they brought in a couple people from the PHF who'd done the bubble season for them. But I kind of, at that point, wanted to be like, I'm going to fight for my spot here. and kind of said, I've been with the league this long. I've been with Boston. I know my teams. I know my information. I'm good at this. So kind of like in a nice, respectful way, I deserve my seat at the table here. And they let me on for a few games. I still hope it can be more by the time the season's over, but it's hard to find spots when you're a little late to the party. And hopefully, again, with the increased schedule and showing them just my dedication to the work, that they'll keep me in that pantheon for the next year and years to come. And that's kind of how ESPN Plus came to be.
Sorry, Paul, I lied. I just thought of one more thing I wanted to talk to Sam about. Right. What was it like on your side of the fence, seeing how organic the growth was on Twitch? Because I don't think it got enough credit outside of the fandom of the league. But
I thought it was massive, and I loved that it affected kind of our style of how we broadcasted as it did. We were getting to see fan reactions live. They were making little inside jokes or little idioms that we could use on the broadcast. It just made it a lot more fun that we could interact right then and there in person. And the community was also like so welcoming of new members, which I was so pleasantly surprised about. Of like, people were popping in every game being like, I just found this or stumbled across this on Twitch. I've never really seen women's hockey before. And then would be like 30 messages of welcome. You should pick this as your favorite team. These are who these players are. And it was just amazing to see not only that growth, but that energy from the fan base who had kind of been here and been more established, so eager to kind of grow that fan base there. And we ended up getting over 1 million views in just our first year of a 3-year deal. And that allowed us to kind of really show the supporting numbers to other potential partners when we were having those talks of like, this is what we've done on Twitch. So we could easily go to this streaming service, or we could even bump all the way up to cable if you give us the chance of these are the kind of numbers we're getting, just kind of streaming on a network that's mostly made for esports and gaming. So I think that was very monumental and should get more credit. And I'm glad that we're still doing Twitch for our Canadian and international viewers, and that TSN has also been so receptive to pick up the ESPN Plus feeds and get them promoted. One of the games last weekend actually, for the first time, got bumped up from streaming on the TSN side of things. I actually had it on TSN4, so if you had one of the big cable packages, you could actually watch it.
That's wonderful. No, I'm so happy because I was watching on Twitch anyway, but the ESPN Plus thing, even if the Flyers are playing, because, well, you know how that's going, I'll put the PHF up on the TV and I'll put an NHL game on a tablet or on the other laptop and just hockey out all weekend. And it's just...
Now we got to make the step to get it on to big boy cable. And hopefully even before the end of this season, we can do it with playoffs or a final. Maybe
I was going to say, I'm hoping I hope they do what NBC did last year, but ESPN's like, well, we need broadcasting. They're doing well enough. Let's stick the whole damn playoffs on there.
Well, I will say, looking at our production crew broadcast schedule, playoffs are not confirmed yet for streaming, so could happen. Could happen.
All right, Paul, that's all I got.
So stay tuned. Hey, maybe it'll be in Boston again, and I can do another finals.
You know what? You've had enough.
So.
Wait. You've had enough, Paul. Listen. No, actually,
it's never enough. Never enough.
And I hope if I can't broadcast, I'll also be in Boston with you there for playoffs in the final.
Yeah, you can hang out in the penalty box like you did for opening night, right?
Oh, absolutely. I'll hang out in the penalty box for playoffs, especially. I know they're going to be filled. I'm going to get my work done.
All right, so that's all the time we have for tonight. Sam, the last thing we usually let our guests do is take the floor for a minute, and if you want to pump up your social media presence or do a little spiel about yourself before we go, where our listeners can find you and so forth. The floor is yours.
Absolutely. You can find me most weekends, not all weekends, on PHF on ESPN Plus, or you can find the PHF page on Twitch. That's twitch.tv, not twitch.com. If you want to follow my socials, I am at sfryman20 on Twitter. That's Fryman20. And if you want to follow on Instagram, it is FryMaster93. Sorry, that's different handles for the different social medias, but that's just how I do. And in terms of anything else to plug, just continue watching and continue supporting the Premier Hockey Federation, all women's sports across the country. They absolutely need it, especially in these times when it may be hard for fans to get to games or find something new to watch. I promise you, you will be vastly entertained by this sport and by this league. It is not inferior, different, bad, or any way. It's easily some of the best hockey you can find, and regardless of where you may be watching in the country or around the world, I promise you there will be at least one player or one team you will fall in love with if you give it a watch.
No doubt. And Sam, thanks once again for joining us tonight. We loved having you on.
Absolutely. I'll be back anytime you want me.
So that's all the time we have for tonight. Thanks for joining us, everyone, once again tonight. Dan, where can our listeners follow you online?
Follow me at all social media platforms at DanLaw83.
Hey, Mark, we are the Stadium Journey podcast. Do you have any stadium journeys coming up in the next couple of weeks before we get together again? And
Yeah, actually, I do. I'm going to the KFC Yum Center this Saturday, and then I'm going to Freedom Hall to check out the other college team, Bellarmine, the Knights. Am I saying that right? Going to do a doubleheader. I have not done a doubleheader in quite some time. So, yes, I actually do have a couple events. I think Milwaukee might have been my last visit to any kind of stadium. So it's been a little bit of a hiatus. Maybe not as long as Dave's during the pandemic, but 2 months is a lot for us. You know what I mean? So, yeah, follow me on all platforms, social media platforms, Ballpark Hunter, YouTube, Instagram.
Yeah.
New.
It's a lot of pictures of legs.
Yeah, Instagram. YouTube, I have a review of the Fiserv Forum, which was, I think, my last venue I checked out. So, yeah. Go right. Cards.
And Dave, you're in lockdown too, Electric Boogaloo right now up there.
Today was first day of school in person again. So, yeah, we got another week or two of no fans anyway. We'll see. So, of course, what happens when there's no fans? You got to read a good book. And Hockey Heads, oh my gosh, is this a good one? Off Mike, the autobiography of Mike Emmerich. You know, that guy is amazing. Anyway, follow me on Twitter and Instagram at ProFan9.
Stadium journeys for me. There's no actual journeys, but a lot of time behind the mic for yours truly over the next couple of weeks. If I'm looking at my calendar correctly, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Before we get together again, I've got 12 games that I'll be doing the PA between UMass Dartmouth men's basketball, women's basketball, hockey, and the Boston Pride. Lots of work to be done. So that's my next couple of weeks, plus a colonoscopy, which will be live broadcasting.
Ooh, I had one of those. Is this your first or second?
This is my second. I'm at that age. I'm a gentleman of a certain age, so now they're routine.
Yeah, they're starting them early now, but it's never too early to get.
It's not a bad thing, and it's not as bad as they all tell you it is. So, gentlemen,
it's that dieting before the liquid.
Yeah, that's the worst part. That stuff that just makes you empty.
Yeah,
yeah, definitely something to do. Catch all that stuff down there early, and you'll thank yourself later for doing so.
Yeah,
you can follow my stadium journeys and my colonoscopy escapades on Twitter, Instagram.
I'm looking forward to that.
Lots of photos on Instagram. Yeah, no. I'm just kidding. Puckman RI. And to check out our 2,500 stadium reviews, news items, feature stories on our website, the mothership, stadiumjourney.com. Connect with us on our social media channels at Stadium Journey. You can find audio versions of the Stadium Journey podcast by searching HIAC Talk Radio Network wherever you look for your favorite podcast. If you're looking for the video version of the podcast, we got those too. Go to Stadium Journey's YouTube page. And if you're looking for our classic back catalog, those can still be found. All those episodes can still be found at vocnation.com. And live streams every other Tuesday night at 7 Eastern at ESPN.tv. Speaking of live streams, our next one will happen on February 1st. That's 2 weeks from tonight, when we will be joined by the in-arena voice of the Buffalo Buttes and the Canisius Golden Griffins hockey team, Ryan Burgess. So once again, thanks. The show's over. Good thing the show's over, isn't it? Thanks everyone for your support, and thanks again to Sam Fryman for joining us tonight. For Dan, for Mark, and for Dave, this is Paul wishing you safe stadium journeys and close games. Hope to see you all again on the road real soon. Be safe.